Hi guys, this is your host Alexandra for another episode of After Talk. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today I have one of my really good friends, Amanda. We met on a camping trip actually a couple months ago.
It was a good time.
It was really fun. So Amanda has a lot of good stories and advice to tell us today about her ex-boyfriends and dating life. So I
have had quite some experiences in my life for sure.
Yes. So let's talk about how old were you when you started dating? Because I actually had to ask my dad to be like, hey dad, I would like to start dating a boy at 17. And then he was like, who do you want to date? I said, I don't know. I just want to be able to do it if it comes along.
Yes. My parents were very Christian, very strict. So they had a strict no dating rule, in their mind. If you're not dating for marriage, why are you dating?
Ooh,
spicy. So it's pretty extreme. They were just at all times convinced that I'm just trying to stick around for sex and crazy times growing up. But I wasn't. Yeah. I was a very good kid.
My mom definitely wanted me to wait till marriage, I think. Yeah. But obviously that did not happen.
Yeah. So. I had the purity ring and everything at one point.
Yours was way more excessive, definitely.
It was about as extreme as it gets when it comes to that stuff. So dating was always a little weird for me growing up. I almost felt guilty because a lot of times I did kind of have to hide it,
Ooh, yes. Yeah. And we all know that when you actually hide your relationship, that is not a good thing.
It is not. I was seeking boys in my window at a very... I wouldn't say young age. I was 17, I think, when I really started dating.
More of more acceptable introductory age, I think.
Yes. Yeah. It was getting to that point where I'm about to leave the house. So, what can they really control at that point?
That is very, very true. So how old were you when you had your... So let's kind of define, what do you think is a healthy relationship?
That's a good question. So it's funny because if you asked me that question growing up back in the day, I would have had a 100% different answer than I do today. But as I've kind of been around I guess now it's been a decade. I started dating at 17, so 27.
Oh yeah,
a decade of dating.
Nice.
My perception's completely different. All of the things that I thought were important and made a relationship what it is were just nothing really in comparison to so much.
Yeah, so I know for me, there we go. I know. So what kind of things would you look out for in a healthy relationship? Because in this episode, guys, we're going to talk about red flags in guys and dating. And so because I've recently had the thought of wow, I kind of maybe don't know 100% how the communication should be and how kind of an 100% example of what a healthy relationship looks like.
Yeah, I think the thing about a healthy relationship is it kind of does look different for different people.
Yeah.
What you would say is healthy could seem crazy to somebody else and vice versa. So I think it just kind of takes time to figure out yourself and figure out your partner and find a healthy medium between the two of you where you can both genuinely look at each other and say you are happy in a relationship.
So I guess prioritizing each other's time and making sure that everybody's respected and has structured boundaries and those boundaries are respected in the relationship.
And heard, I think the biggest thing in any relationship is actually listening and just communicating and really understanding the other person on a deeper level to where, when you really understand someone, you trust them to a different degree.
That's true.
Yeah.
So how long do you think it takes you to trust somebody?
That question, that also has changed in time, I have to say. I used to be very trusting.
Mm-hmm. So when was your... kind of guide us through your experiences in relationships for the ones you want to share.
Yeah, so I guess I would say, my first relationship, like I said, it was my first serious relationship.
The ones that
first one I told my parents about, yes. That was when I was 16 years old. We weren't together the whole time, but we were together my entire senior year, 17, going into college.
Wow.
And that was it was a complicated relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good relationship, but we came from completely different worlds, which made things a little bit difficult at times. Communication was hard. Both of us were so new. We didn't really know how to.
Yeah, I mean, you're so young. You don't even know, like, what you like to do.
You don't.
On a daily basis.
Yeah, you're just still trying to figure out yourself so much that you can't really explain yourself to someone else.
Right, right.
So it was complicated, but it was happy. I mean, we had fun. We had friends. We had a good life together. We actually went to separate schools for the time we were together. Yeah. We went to the same school for a while, but when we were together, we were at different schools. And I think it was good for us because we had healthy space. Yeah. So I had my entire different life apart from him, but we also had our time together. Yeah. And I think that kept our relationship healthy. But so towards the end of my senior year, you know, I'm going to college, and we didn't actually think he was going to get into college. He wasn't expecting to, and he didn't have the money, so it was kind of not in the plans. You know, I was going to go to school, and he was going to stay back home. But he did get into college. And once he heard the college that I decided to go to with my scholarship, he decided to then follow me.
Oh, wow. So you really had kind of a story, like, where the guy follows you into college, and you guys, like, so you're 18, like, oh, we're going to be together, like, we're going to the same school, like, there's nothing, like, how, on a scale of 1 to delusional, you know, how much did you believe in this fantasy?
I didn't, and that's kind of the thing about it, is I was ready to go to college. I was ready to do my own thing and be independent.
She was ready to build a roster.
Yeah, you can say something of sort, you know, I was still pretty young and coming out of a bit of a bubble, but I was definitely ready to get out there and see the world, and he told me he got into my school and was coming, and I was super, super shocked by that. Everyone told him not to because it was a private college. He ended up going about $50,000 in debt in the first semester, and then had to drop out because he could not afford it. Like, we did tell him. So that was pretty unfortunate, but regardless, he followed me to school, and things were a bit rocky at that point. I was really kind of just trying to explore myself and branch off into college and do college things, and he was very much so obsessive.
So in that era of your life, what kind of advice would you give to yourself for those girls that are going through the same experience? Because you're over that now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just when it comes down to it, you've got to follow your heart. Like, you owe it to yourself to do everything that your heart is pulling you towards. Like, if you feel it in your soul, like, you need to take that and work on it, because if you follow that, like, things line up the way they're supposed to. Like, I do.
Think so.
I believe in fate.
Me too.
I believe that, and if you don't answer those things, if you don't branch off, it comes back and haunts you.
Yeah, I think, like, definitely having a fear of regret. Yeah. For me, like, working with people who are, like, severely old. 90s on their deathbed, I have kind of just come to the realization, like, why not do whatever I want? Like, what's the point? Like, kind of just, like, not caring so much about what other people think and, like, what they're doing, but yeah, definitely.
But relationships change you. Relationships kind of put a little bit of, like, a cloud over your vision, because you then aren't just thinking of yourself. You can't be, or you're a selfish partner, and you're not doing your job in the relationship. So you have to compromise a little bit, and that's part of making it work. That's part of a healthy relationship. But there's a balance.
So when is it not healthy to compromise?
So I'll tell you when it wasn't healthy. So I didn't quite. I kind of tried to end it with him, and it didn't work. He wasn't very receptive. Yeah. So we just kind of made it work for a while and tried to push through, and out of nowhere, he completely changed. Wow. Completely changed. And I think at first there weren't any major signs to make me run. So it wasn't really in
And he was still going to school.
He was going to school with me, yeah. And then he just kind of lost it, and out of nowhere started becoming very physical. And it was it completely threw me off, because we were the young couple. I waited, 14 months with this guy. We didn't rush into sex. We didn't rush into anything. We went to church together.
You felt like it was like, wow, this is like healthy, and this is what a good relationship is. And then he kind of all of a sudden turned around.
It was a
like,
complete 180, and I've never actually seen a person do anything like that in my life. So it was very shocking. Yeah, true. It was shocking as
Sorry.
That was cute. Yeah, it was shocking, as a young girl. And then I think that fucked up my perception of trust for a long time, because somebody, I spent a year with, somebody so well after.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you could say, like your friends sometimes know you more than your family, too.
Yeah, quite frequently. And with everything we were going through at that point, the relationship was complicated, family-wise.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was weird. But with all of that, we were united in all of it. We were partners. We had this whole life together that we at one time did plan. Things weren't really going... I have to say, I noticed him changing a little bit more, probably before the abuse started.
What happened?
A lot of things happened. I mean, it's hard to even...
So, pretty much kind of, you guys, he followed you around, and then, kind of, it soon turned toxic, and you realized,
he followed me everywhere. He would get upset if I did anything without him, and it became a point where I would...
really jealous.
Yes, and it became way too much, and I broke up with them, and he would stalk me. He'd show up where I was, and he'd show up in my dorm and just kind of sit there and make me talk to him. And I didn't like causing a scene. It was a small school, Baptist school. Yeah. So everyone talks and everything's a big deal and everything's just dramatic. And he would add to that. He knew I hated it, so he would use it as a tactic. And it somehow, I was young and I was honestly weak. I was stupid. And I would just fall back in.
Maybe not so much weak, maybe naive.
I feel, you're right.
Now you wouldn't fall for something like that. And that's more just based on experience.
Yeah, it very much so is. But I also think, I don't know, I had enough respect for myself to not allow that to happen. And I still did. So it's one of those things that just, I've had to learn so much from that. And that's one of those... what are the red flag signs, you can feel it in your heart when something's starting to change.
Yeah, I really agree with you. I think that, so I know, we both have, you have ADHD and I have ADD, and so, I was telling you a while ago that I have a hard time, believing myself. Yeah. Because I get confused between my ADHD anxiety and just, my own personal thoughts and opinions before I was on medication, but I know for me, I used to get very confused. Did that kind of happen to you a lot when you were younger? Do you think you got confused a lot, and that's kind of, why you kind of leaned toward, the nicer, more, naive-ish behavior? Because I know for me, that's kind of what I did. I would just be oh, well, maybe I'm just being, a bitch, and and I just need to be nice, and maybe I shouldn't believe myself because I'm just being judgmental. But really, when I've actually needs talking, it's no, you really need to listen.
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain part of being with somebody who is capable of abuse that they're very good with their words.
Tactical.
They're very tactical, exactly. Yeah. So yes, they feed off of people that are insecure, that don't quite understand themselves or know themselves. I was in that vital stage of life where I was figuring that out, and he absolutely used that against me because it was easy for him to kind of confuse me.
Right, and you guys were the same age, so
yes.
Do you think that it kind of just these things developed over time? Because I feel like no one intends to be a hateful, hurtful person towards others. I think that sometimes, when you grow up in the environments and the skills that you've learned from your parents, they're not the best.
Yeah.
And then you get in a relationship with somebody who you feel like you love, and it's so strong and it's amazing, and then they get scared because they're insecure and they have their own demons, and then that pushes them to do these things, follow people around, hurt people, and be very irrational. And
I think that's such a good point about it. And that's also a huge part of it that kind of got me stuck in it.
Yeah,
like I said, we came from different backgrounds. My family was we had our stuff, but very put together in comparison to many. And his family was all over. He'd been, didn't live with his mom for a while. She lost them and didn't care.
So it's very much like a sense of instability.
There was some serious like mommy issues and things that I knew I would have to deal with, but I didn't realize the extent of which they ran.
Yes.
And the anger that was inside of him, it just threw me off. It was hard to handle. I think a lot of myself forgave him for the way he was acting and the way his temper would go, because it was close to abuse before it was abuse, and I chose to kind of ignore it.
I feel bad.
Yeah, because you look at someone's background and you're like, well, do they know better?
Is it not abuse? What do you think in your experience through your dating life and that kind?
I think it's a hard question, because I feel like it's just it's hard to know. It's hard to know. There's so much. Everybody has their toxic traits, right? And it's so easy to just kind of nudge it off as that. But I think abuse is when somebody feels that they have control over you because of your vulnerability and your desire for them, and it's almost like once you're taken advantage of to a point that's damaging you, like it's not healthy for you. It's affecting your mental health. It's affecting the image that you have of yourself, your identity, who you are. Yeah, but you'll get so lost in it that, I've been in a relationship where I completely forgot who I was.
Oh yeah, and that's horrible.
It's terrifying because you feel so sure. You feel so sure of yourself after a certain point in life. At 17, I definitely was not. But later on in my life, I thought I would know better. But still, it's just, people are powerful and our minds are susceptible.
Well, your brain, chemically wants to protect you.
It does.
And so it's hard because, I know for me, I tend to forget a lot because of my ADD. And so I often forget those things that hurt me, because those are the things that are going to bring me back.
Yeah, it's
make
easy
those
to
hard
repress.
Decisions. Yeah,
when you have ADD and you have so many thoughts at once, I won't allow myself to think about something bad that happens, and over time it just disappears because I don't think about the details.
And so that's kind of what happens to me in relationships. I'm like, wow, well maybe we could be friends, but then I start hanging out with them, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I forget. I literally forgot this whole entire thing that you're a bitch.
I've absolutely gotten there. I'm one of those people that once I connect with someone, I do not let go easy. So when people are just cut the strings, I don't let everyone into my life. I'm very particular. So when I let you in, it's because there's something special and I believe in you. So I have a really hard time letting go of that, and it's caused me trouble.
I do too, and I think that's why Amanda and I were talking about this last week, how I don't want half-ass friends. I want people who are going to be loyal and stick by me. Because then, that's kind of the whole point of being friends.
Yeah, connections and having people that you can depend on and support you, that's essential in life.
And then that goes back to, relationships. What's the point of being in a relationship if you're not even going to, if I'm down or something, that's the whole point, is, sticking it through the hard times. But it's when does that become unhealthy, you know?
You're right, because there's a fine line with that as well.
And I think, for me, in my experience, it becomes unhealthy if I'm trying to sit you down and talk to you, and I'm talking to you calmly, just as I'm talking now, and you're not saying anything, and it's been some time. It's not we got into an argument, and then it's immediately after, even 5 minutes. It's it's been half of a day, and we come home and we talk, and you're sitting there and you're not saying anything to me, and I'm trying to talk to you about the problem and find a solution. Then at that point, that's when I feel the communication is unhealthy, kind of stonewalling, or where you just can't agree and come to a common understanding.
Yeah, I guess. It's always hard to deal with that when when neither one can compromise. Like I said previously, it can be a challenge for sure. I think I have the hardest time with passive aggression. If you're just gonna be quiet, that's probably gonna be better for the situation.
Welcome to Washington, baby.
Yes, it has been an adjustment, and I am not the one to handle it. I will snap on a motherfucker.
Yeah, I can be passive aggressive, but I'm definitely, I've been told I'm more of somebody who's more direct.
Yes.
And
yeah, I would
but I don't really. Well, that's probably because of how I grew up. Like, my dad's very direct.
Yeah.
But also, like, I don't know.
You know, I think it's taken me time to gain my assertiveness. Sure. I will say that when I was younger, I was not as outspoken for myself. I didn't stand up for myself the way that I do now. And I've had to learn that over time. And, you know, I literally was a pushover at one point in my life, I would say. I would get taken advantage of, and I would just allow it because I didn't believe in myself. But that's completely changed now, and I think that's it's essential. You have to have some sort of assertiveness in order to make a relationship function. And
it's like boundaries, right?
It is.
So it's like, how much respect do I have, and like for myself, and like to be my own individual person in a relationship. And I know that, I don't know if you've been in a relationship where, like, you maybe have formed into one person.
Yeah.
And that can be very difficult because it's just like, you just form into one person. Like, you kind of, like, forget all, like, the things that you, like, have uniquely about yourself. I know that one of the things, like, I really love about Lamar is, like, he encourages me to do my hobbies and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Rather than being, like, just because he doesn't like it doesn't mean, like, I can't like it kind of thing.
Right.
I think that's also something, too, like...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The need to control. I mean, my first boyfriend would stalk me at all times. It was really weird. He would go in to find my iPhone, and he created my account for me. You know, this is back in the day. I didn't know how to do any of that.
Goodness.
Yes, he would follow me everywhere, and he would just... randomly, you know, he would pretend to be other people. He would make fake numbers and call me from other phones, or like text me from other phones and be like, "Hey, we met earlier." And, you know, he'd pretend to be someone in a study group
catfishing you
or something. He would literally catfish me and then be like, "Bitch, I got you." I'd show up for a study date, and nobody would be there.
Wow.
Yeah.
How'd you get him to stop?
I had to get the police involved.
Wow.
Yeah, I almost had to get a restraining order.
Wow.
It was severe. Pretty
much your first relationship you ever actually feel like you cared about somebody was, like, toxic.
Yes, I got abused. I got literally stalked. Harassed. It was bad. It was extreme. And he would threaten me too, you know. Like, the cops were involved for a reason.
Yeah, that's really difficult. Especially because you're so young at the time.
Young.
So, like, you, like, don't even really, you're like, I don't even
And I didn't have anyone there. You know, my family just moved. So I was in North Carolina. You know, I was close to where I grew up, about an hour. But my family moved to Detroit, so I didn't have a soul. It was just me and this guy. And then he just became physical. And I tried to kind of hide it because he was the only one I had.
Yeah.
So I wanted it to just go away. And I pretended it would, and then it wouldn't. And I had to just turn it off, and it became way worse. And that's also why I did get stuck for so long, you know, because he would harass me back into it. He'd post things on Twitter about how I cheated on him and stuff, and I never would do that. I would never do that. He was the only one I'd ever been with that I was only interested in being with.
Wow.
I wasn't that kind of girl, but everybody thought I was after that experience.
That's really shitty.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, better.
I say boys need to stop making women seem like they're crazy and doing things because, like, women just try to do things to protect themselves. But then it's also kind of like a lot of women are also crazy. So it's just
there are a lot of crazy women. And, like, it's not that far-fetched just to say someone cheated on you. I mean, people cheat a lot. It's not that far-fetched. It was if you knew us. If anything, it actually did turn around the other way. He ended up cheating on me. So it's one of those situations where, you know,
maybe he was, like, just projecting.
It was absolutely projecting.
Yeah. And he was just like,
just excuses.
Maybe I want to cheat on her.
Yeah, petty young stuff. Mm-hmm. Very glad. I'm glad that I caught him cheating on me.
Yeah,
because it was finally he understood why I was leaving. It wasn't just like, you're crazy and I can't do it anymore, because he wouldn't accept that. Once I'm like, okay, literally, I've got girls sending you all of their messages.
Wow.
And yeah,
I mean, I
things
think
are different.
I definitely understand what you're saying. Like, you wouldn't really believe it.
Yeah.
Unless, like, you found the evidence.
Yeah, I needed to be smacked in the face and have my heart kind of torn out.
So, like, now saying that, you're a few years older.
Yes.
And now having experience and maturity through that experience, what would it take now besides finding those things? Like, if you didn't have that evidence, what would make you leave a relationship?
I think as soon as I feel that I'm being controlled, you know, I had a relationship where the guy would tell me, you can do whatever you want. I don't care, it's fine. And then I would do it, and as I would hang out with my friends, and I'd be having a good night, and I'd text him, and I miss you, like, wish you were here, but I hope you have not even, you know, just, you know, wish, I miss your company, it would be fun if you were here, but thank you pretty much for allowing me to do my own thing. And he would respond with just, oh, I'm feeling really depressed tonight, or, you know, he'd guilt me, or he had problems with substance abuse, so he would
How old were you in this relationship?
This is actually pretty recently. This is about 2 years. I was about 25.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't too far away. Yep, at your age. Yeah. And he would just manipulate me to where he'd guilt me the whole time I was out, and then it wasn't fun anymore. Yeah. And I got to a point where I wouldn't talk to him anymore. You know, I wouldn't send him the text because it obviously wasn't working for me. And then the next day, I'd get accused of cheating on him. And he'd punish me. If I went out, he'd say, oh, I'm so glad you had fun. And just kind of be short with me and, like, awkward.
Super
and then I'd see him.
Aggressive.
So passive aggressive.
So you had a lot of people who were passive aggressive.
Yeah, maybe that is why I cannot handle it anymore.
I think that being passive aggressive to be nice is fine. Yeah. But, like, that shit is annoying.
Yeah, it's just, it's so manipulative because it really did guilt me. It made me feel so bad. And I didn't want him to be in a bad emotional state.
Right, because you loved him at the time.
Exactly. Yeah. And I really did. I really, truly thought I was more in love than I'd ever been. And I now look back and laugh at that.
Same.
It's funny how that happens.
Isn't that funny? Like, I definitely think that is really funny because, like, what does that even mean? It's just like, is it just a maturity thing, or just kind of like, wait, you need to have more experiences in your life and different relationships?
I think you do. I think experience is everything. Because, I mean, if you asked me at the time, I totally thought I was in love with my high school boyfriend.
Oh, yeah.
I realized that it was a young love at a certain point, and that it really probably wasn't meant to continue. But I still truly believed I was in love with him. Yeah. But when I look back, I really do not think I was in love with that guy at all. I thought I always would love him. I thought it would always be like that, but things changed, you know, with the abuse and just... Well,
yeah. Once that happens, nothing
you see
is
someone
ever
different.
The same.
Yeah. I absolutely wish the best for him. I hope he's happy. I hope he's doing well in life. But I do not think that I've been in love since. And what I actually experienced in those moments isn't even close to what I ever experienced in my first relationship that I thought would last forever at some young point in my life.
So what do you think?
Hi guys, this is the end of part 1 to Amanda's interview. In the next episode, we're going to be talking about red flags and dating, and I hope that you learned something from this episode or just enjoyed listening to it. As always, you can find me on Spotify, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. So please, give me a follow, give me a like, give me a something. I'm trying here. I'm just joking. I make lots of jokes. But yes, 30-minute episodes from here on out, and we will post every week as we have been, just so that way you don't have to listen to an hour and a half of a conversation. Just what's interesting and what I think you guys would like. As always, take it easy, and I'll see you in next week's EP. See ya.